I'll do, whatever it takes ethically to put forth the best trial possible. In terms of what is a trial, I used to think it was a battle between good and evil or a search for the truth, but really it's just trying to get, in a world full of noise, it's just trying to get the signal through, the true signal through of what's really going on and why your client is on the right side of things, what needs to happen for justice to be served.
This is RVA Trial Lawyers, Virginia's trial lawyer podcast, hosted by Sharif Gray and Niall Abuzaki.
All right, before we get into the podcast episode, I want to take a minute or two and introduce you to a friend and colleague, Jenny Shadini. Jenny is a former prosecutor from Baltimore City, and now she works as a settlement consultant. We work with her often on helping our clients really maximize their results. Jenny, it's really great working with you and having you as a supporter of the podcast.
Thank you, Sharif. Hi, everyone. My name is Jenny Shadini, and I work as a settlement consultant, which means I work with attorneys and their clients in various settlement planning needs, such as structured settlements, whether or not to utilize a trust, how to protect government benefits, and overall providing financial security to your clients.
And Jenny, how could people get a hold of you?
The best way to reach me would be my cell, which is 301-332-1031. Again, that's 301-332-1031.
All right, we're back. RVA Trial Lawyers, and today we've got the good fortune of having a good friend of ours, Penn Crawford, join us. Penn and I have worked together before, and we continue to work together now on a handful of personal injury cases. Penn is not only an excellent lawyer and a great person, he is also a health wizard. I think, what was it, about a year ago or so, or maybe a little less than, I was under the weather, and all of a sudden I told Penn, and he's like, oh, you got to take this, and that. And so suddenly Amazon was showing up with boxes of different herbal supplements and all that. And I took the stuff, and gosh, it was only like 24, 48 hours, and I started feeling better. So Penn, super excited to have you, not just to talk about legal stuff, but of course to talk about something that's important to all of us.
And Ben, I just got to jump in real quick. Now I know why he added like 10 pounds of muscle in the last year. So
I'm taller too.
Yes, and he's getting there. So I appreciate you having you on the podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself to the listeners?
Sure. I'm Penn Crawford, partner over at the Johnson Injury Firm. From the Richmond area, grew up here, went to Benedictine High School, then worked on Capitol Hill for a couple of years, but you kind of hit a glass ceiling if you're not a lawyer. So came back and went to law school at University of Richmond, but Richmond's a great place to live and raise a family. Ended up falling in love, as they say, at U of R Law, so started a family here, and probably the dumbest attorney in some ways because I'm married to a divorce attorney. But hey, what can you do? We're here.
You're still married, so you're doing
still
well.
Married. Yeah, still married.
Well, maybe that's insurance, right?
Exactly.
To make sure you don't get divorced, right? You marry someone who deals with, anyways.
I know I'm losing that battle if I do because both her and her mom do divorce. So
yikes.
That would be a problem. And then I worked at a general practice firm called Coates and Davenport. Tom Coates was a great mentor, but I always felt like I was a mile wide and an inch deep. So a friend of mine talked me into going to kind of a personal injury mill firm, and did a long time there. And when I saw that the word partner didn't mean very much over there, really going to work out, I eventually got out. And I got to give a shout out to one of your guests, Ben Glass, read an article I did in the VTLA Journal and wrote me a note telling me he enjoyed the article and sent me a little book called Carry Your Own Leash. And that was in probably 2015 or 16. I kind of forgot I had it, and then we moved in 2019, and then issues started flaring up at the old place, and that book magically reappeared, and I read it, and I think it gave me the guts to go out on my own, because most mill firms are going to tell you you're never going to make it on your own, you're not going to get any clients, you're going to be in the poorhouse in 6 months, but that book gave me the guts to do it, so I'm very thankful to Ben Glass for that.
Yeah, Penn, I mean, it is scary, especially in the small firm world, but it can happen, and it can go really well, right? And it is interesting to see kind of from a marketing angle how there's a lot of cases out there, and there's a lot of people who need our help. And there are people who are okay calling the number on the billboard, and there are people who are not okay doing that and would prefer more kind of the small shop type handling when it comes to finding a lawyer. So while I know there's a number of things that we want to talk about with you today, where do we want to start? I mean, do we want to start with trial work or why you got into personal injury?
Yeah,
I mean, we've got a whole list of things.
I want to know first, yes, you went to law school because you hit a ceiling on Capitol Hill. You get out of law school. What was going through your mind? What did you want to do personal injury? What was in your mind? What did it mean to be a lawyer then?
Well, I didn't really want to do personal injury. I grew up in an era in the 80s and 90s where I think the insurance companies, you can pay a movie or a TV show to highlight Pepsi or Pizza Hut. You can pay for that placement, and the corporations often do it. I swear, I think the insurance companies were paying for every time anyone in the 80s or 90s had a neck brace on that they were faking it. That's what I grew up believing. Grew up in the West End of Richmond. That's what most people grew up believing. And then I went to Coates in Davenport, and Tom Coates was like, well, you're going to do these cases anyway. Then, if you think after that you don't want to do them, if you think the insurance companies are playing fair with you, you don't have to do them anymore. And it only took one or two of those. I think my first one was State Farm, and that woke me up to the lie that I had believed for years. And then I became sold on it. We're the underdog. We got to make sure it's a even playing field and our clients are being treated fairly. And that woke me up to it pretty quickly. So.
And what does personal injury practice mean to you? And it's interesting because when I'm talking to non-attorneys and I bring up, Sharif and I are very close friends, or I bring up Sharif and I say he does personal injury law. And they're like, well, what is that? They're just suing people that, just to make money. What does it mean to you? What does personal injury law mean to you?
Well, you're taking somebody one of the lowest points in their life, and you're helping them through a process where they've got billion-dollar companies that are against them, trying their hardest not to give them everything they're entitled to, trying to give them nothing at all if they can help it. I've even had a lawyer friend come to me 2 days after a statute of limitation had run because he'd been negotiating with the adjuster the last few months and was sure that he was going to get the money. And I think he was in intellectual property, and he just could not believe that all it took was 2 days after that 2 years is done and he gets nothing. He couldn't believe that adjuster would lead him down that road, and that's exactly what happened.
What's really crazy, and actually we had a mediation today involving our client's own insurance company, right? Like if you're underinsured motorist coverage or uninsured motorist coverage, oftentimes and despite you paying premiums, you being a loyal customer for years, when it comes time for you to have a claim, they'll oppose it, right? And they'll hire their own attorney to fight you, right? Which is mind blowing.
Well, they're in business, and it's all about money, right? The insurance companies are in business. It's all about money. They want to reduce the exposure and how much money they pay out, and your job is to make sure that first you take that victimization to your client into perspective and try to make them whole or as close to whole as you can, and second, deter future behavior. So that's when I think of PI. So you talked about leaving middle-sized firm and then going on your own.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the transition. So how scary was that?
Oh, it was very scary. I got a wife and two kids, and she's a divorce lawyer, but she's raising two girls, so she's working less and less. So it's on me, and you're being told it's not going to work. There's too many other PI lawyers out there already. We're in a small area. You're not going to get the cases. You're not going to make any money. Some of those larger firms like to make you think you don't know what you're doing. They like to make you think that for life, so you're not trying to get more money and get what you're worth from them, and so you don't go anywhere. So it's very scary. But I'll say the Ben Glass book helped. I just had to make the jump, and now that I've made the jump, I would never go back. I'd rather sell vegetables on the side of the street working for myself than working for somebody else, even with a 6-figure salary and all that. I would never go back. You get more out of you when you're working for you. And the transition, to be fair, I joined the Johnson Injury firm, and they had everything set up pretty beautifully for me. We need to work on our tech, but other than that, everything was already set up quite beautifully for me, and they've been nothing but fair, generous, and helpful the whole time. They say you don't know anybody until you've had a dollar in between you, until there's a dispute over money. Well, we've had a dispute over cases there already, and they just couldn't have been more generous. There's clients that come in. Connor Johnson's from Richmond. I'm from Richmond. We both are from large families. We both know a lot of people, and a few of them have come in that Could have been his origination, could have been my origination. He's just been like, go ahead, take them. It's fine. So it's I know I'm with good people now and people who believe in me. So it's great. It's been a great transition.
Well, congratulations on that move. And, it's because of a reputation you've created that even leaving a big firm, or mid-sized firm, you're still getting these clients to come to you.
Yeah, in terms of PI, old firm's probably a big firm. In terms of the PI, it's probably first or second in Virginia. At least it's from Virginia. That's another topic down the road in our podcast, talking about national firms, personal injury firms coming into Richmond. So, but they're
not
considered
just
a
that.
big
We're
firm
also
for PI.
there's a lot of talk now about the alternative kind of business structures with non-lawyer ownership. It hasn't creeped into Virginia yet, but it's certainly making moves around the country.
And there's people that are already talking about how they want to be the Walmart of law firms. I mean, at that point, your service and everything is just going down to levels you can't imagine.
Well, let me ask a question on that. Does the client appreciate what is the Walmart of PI in comparison to a boutique PI firm, especially if they haven't had prior experience with a PI firm?
No, I think the problem is they don't know what they're missing if they haven't gone to a boutique full service law firm and they're going to what's not in Virginia yet, a Walmart type place.
So if they don't know what they don't know, how do you maintain relevance as a smaller firm in relation to these bigger firms that are coming, big national firms that are coming into town?
Well, you partially got to rely on word of mouth. You got to rely on your clients, the people you've worked with before, to go out and spread the word for you, because people are going to believe that more than what they still see in a billboard or even a TV ad. But you got to get your message out too. Every 20 years or so, a firm will pop up and say, instead of a third, we'll do it for 25%. But oddly, those firms always sort of disappear after 4 or 5 years. I don't know what happens, but they disappear. Apparently one is popping back up now, but I've seen it before, so I'm not too worried about it.
And has the advancement of technology and AI, has that facilitated these larger firms in actually bringing in clients, or has it made it more difficult?
I don't know how much AI has helped in terms of marketing. You can get AI to do marketing scripts and slogans pretty quickly, but I don't know how much has helped in terms of marketing. For the bigger firms, for the downtown silk stocking firms, I worry for their research attorneys. I worry for their attorneys who write briefs and things like that. It's not perfect yet. AI just did a basic math error, a single-digit basic math error, and something I did with it 2 days, so you still have to babysit it. But it's scary because 2 years ago, I used AI, and I was like, well, that was kind of like using a high school senior. You really got to keep an eye on it all the time. Now when I'm using AI, it's like, well, I'm kind of like using a second-year associate. I still got to keep an eye on it, but they know a lot more than just 2 years ago, and it's only improving. It's just crazy the technology race we're in. It's not slowing down at all. I don't know if society's ready for it. Society wasn't ready for social media. We didn't realize we weren't ready for social media, but society was not ready for social media. I don't know that we're ready for this AI race, and half the people in AI have some very dire predictions about the future. So,
and the reason why I bring it up to a certain extent, you'll be talking to a friend, and I'm not sure if your phone is listening to you, if you search something.
It's listening.
It's listening.
It's listening.
And you talk about an accident or something to that effect. And when we're talking about bigger national firms, within seconds you're on Instagram or Facebook and you see an ad right there. Yeah. And that's the reason why I brought up the question is, well, how do you then, as a smaller firm, remain relevant when they got the power to, within seconds, using AI, they're able to market, they're able to captivate their future client and lead them to at least dialing the number?
Well, I think that predates AI. That's targeted advertising.
Yes, and without doubt. And it's a form of, AI. Yes.
Yeah, but we can pay for that too. We just have to choose our spend more wisely than the big firms. I mean, if you work with any marketing company long enough, eventually they'll start you with one program, whether it's TV, whether it's billboards, whether it's digital. But eventually you'll realize if you meet with them long enough, they want you spending money on everything everywhere. They want you to be everywhere. They want you to be just like that big firm that recently invaded Richmond. They want you wrapped on school buses, not school buses, wrapped on city buses. And
They'd be on
TV.
school buses if they could, though.
They
The
would.
city of Richmond might make that
Hey,
deal,
not in
too.
Henrico, brother. Not in Henrico County.
So at our size,
Depends on
we
the budget this year.
I guess the answer to your question is we got to really pick our spend, and we got to really make sure that our clients are evangelistic for us.
And it's mainly something for the listeners to think about, right? The power of these big companies and the amount of money they spend on marketing. How are you able to remain relevant, especially if you're a PI firm, right? When there's so much spending on marketing. And we see it. If word of mouth is so powerful, and that still is probably arguably for you and Sharif, is how you get the majority of your clients.
A lot of it certainly is. One thing to consider is not all marketing is equal. I actually don't like the word marketing, even though that's it's certainly a big part of what we do, in the sense that marketing to me comes off as almost manipulative is the wrong word, but forced. I think one of the advantages that the smaller law firms has is the ability to connect in more meaningful ways with clients and potential clients. So, the willingness to be who you are, right, on a podcast or on a video online or on your bio on your website, right? Because I think nowadays people are very much interested in connecting with someone they can trust, and that's incredibly important when you're trying to find an attorney. More so than there's just a good brand, right? The law is a very individualized profession. Each case is each case, and it involves an attorney, paralegal, the client, and a few other handful of people. And you need to be able to trust the people on your team, right? And so I think we can be very effective if we are an option and allow ourselves to be found as an option in an authentic way. And I actually think, to some extent, to get a little bit more directly to your question, I think AI actually helps us because it now gives us some of the resources that we wouldn't necessarily have otherwise, right?
Yeah, for marketing, I think AI is my new midlife crisis. I can't settle on an AI. I have to try them all. GLBGPT.com is like an old school aggregator. If you remember when Yahoo and AOL and all of them had their search engines, there was something called Metacrawler. There are these aggregators of the search engines. Now GLBGPT.com is an aggregator of all the AIs. It's intimidating because you have 20 some options to choose from for whatever your task is. But I tend to float between Grok, Claude, and Perplexity. My kids use ChatGPT. I don't really use it, but for Grok, for marketing specifically, I have a setup for Grok called Marketing, and I can ask it to tell me what Ben Glass of Great Legal Marketing, Ken Hardison of PILMA, Personal Injury Law Management Association, Dan Kennedy, who's a big marketer, been out there forever, and Seth Godin. And I ask, what would they do? Like we're unrolling, a Johnson Injury firm, we're unrolling 804 Justice as a number. And I ask, what would they do to highlight this new 804 Justice number? And Ken Hardison started with, you got to get it out there to people hire lawyers that they know, like, and trust. Ben Glass actually talked about how it's got to, make the lawyer happy and fit his schedule. So it sounded authentic. I was just amazed at how much AI knew about them, and it was completely authentic. And I did the same thing with some trial lawyers, Rick Friedman, Rex Paris, and all that. And I've got that in Grok too, and I can ask it questions and ask it for analogies and things like that. It's nuts. It's not their actual brain, but AI seems to have gone through enough of their podcasts and blogs and other appearances. The better known you are, the better AI knows you. So my theory on AI is I'm going to use it as much as possible before it starts using me. So,
and we're using it with legal work now too. Penn and I are on a case where we just filed, I think it's a 59-page initial filing, and that complaint, discovery requests, jury instructions, verdict form, witness list, exhibit list, bench brief. There might be something else too. And we were able to put that together in light speed because of AI. Now, granted, we reviewed everything. We obviously gave it the content to work off of. But, we have the whole case more or less. Oh, expert designation. We have the whole case more or less done at the initial filing. And that's in large part thanks to AI.
Well, if you're not using it, the others side is going to be using it.
And I'm sure the defense is, right? I mean,
So
I'm sure the adjusters to some extent have some AI built in. I mean, they're smart, right?
They always had that Cyclops program, which was kind of early AI for evaluating cases. They've had that for 20 some years. Yeah. But
I mean, the numbers for offers, I mean, they don't come out of thin air, right? Like they've got databases. They know who's trying cases, who's not. They know, I guess, average amounts for different types of cases depending on different factors. And so that's why we'll get initial offers of, we offer $7,842.16, right? I'm dead serious. Like we will get offers like that, and then we'll negotiate, and then they'll go up by what we believe is an arbitrary number of, I don't know, $3,400, right? And it's because they're getting that number from this system that's doing the analysis for them. So it's pretty incredible.
That's interesting.
And you can have one AI check on the other AI.
That's
and
right.
You always have to have the lawyer check because it will still make up case law and it'll still make basic math errors and things like that. But it's amazing. You know, a blank slate is so hard to start with. Editing somebody else's brief is so much easier than just starting with a blank slate. It's so much quicker.
And with AI, you can go from 0 to 75% solution in a matter of minutes.
Yep.
Right, which is incredible. Now, people get a lot of flack for AI, and it's because I think of laziness, right? It's like when they have AI write a brief or respond to a brief and cite case law, and the lawyer doesn't even check it, right? Like you can't do that. I mean, if you're going to use it, you have to use it responsibly. If you're going to cite the law, you have to go check the law. And I mean, at least from my perspective, I'm not using AI for case law stuff unless it's like built into a Westlaw or Lexis or something like that.
Yeah, I had AI write a brief on a landlord-tenant case, liability in that area, and didn't like what I saw. I scanned a chapter of a Virginia landlord-tenant horn book on premises liability in it, and I watched as AI just erased paragraphs and then brought in new paragraphs and case law and everything, and reviewed that and looked at it with another AI, and the attorney backed down on their motion after that. So,
So I guess you're still...
We're not going to need judges soon, Judge.
Hey, you're going to put I don't think my job is in jeopardy. I don't think AI is going to be, jeopardizing what I do. So it does take work from what you're inputting. So in that case, clearly it was citing law either under different chapters of the code or cases that don't really relate to the issue at hand, or it's not precedent to that issue at hand. So you had to go and get the law on that issue and then scan it in.
Right. It saw some keywords that it thought were relevant, but really weren't relevant. They just weren't in the right area of the statute. They were off. And some of it was relevant, just some of it wasn't. But once you took the horn book, scanned it in, and it went through that and just started making edits right in front of me, and 5 minutes later, I had a much, much better brief.
Interesting.
It's incredible. It really is. And what's really mind-blowing is that it's changing every day. It's getting better and better and better. So, I mean, sometimes I'm in conversation. Actually, Penn, you and I have had this conversation 100 times now. What's it going to be like in 3 years? But really, the real question is, what's it going to be like in 3 months, right? Because things are just rapidly evolving. So, I think it is a force multiplier for at least the work that we do. Like Penn, I am concerned about like what happens when you don't need the research and writing attorney or the army of associates doing the document reviews and stuff at some of these big firms.
Do you foresee less need for those attorneys?
I do.
And do you foresee that we'll need less attorneys to fill certain positions?
Those types of positions, certainly.
Yeah,
I mean,
I think so.
I'm trying to get into court more now because I think AI is coming for me. So I'm trying to get more in court because AI can't go into court just yet. So.
That's why I'm safe. That's why I'm safe. And, it goes back to the human element. It goes back to authenticity. And it goes back to trial work, right? You have to connect with other humans. AI cannot connect with other humans. So in the end of the day, there are limitations, and those limitations, at least I'm saying this now, I don't foresee AI overcoming in the near future.
Well, I hope not. I really hope not.
That's one of those things.
I'll be back to mowing lawns.
And did AI help with that recipe for his, muscle gain?
No, that's all me. Well, no, the muscle gain I can't take credit for. The getting them, I'm the wrong guy to talk to about fitness, but in terms of herbal
Well, no,
supplements
I
and
see you at the
getting
gym, and we go to the same gym, and we see each other at the gym.
Dude, I barely fit through the locker room space. I got work to do. I definitely don't give people advice on losing weight. I will say you guys are pretty young and you haven't had this happen to you yet, but the danger with health is if you don't pay attention to it enough, it can snowball really quickly. And I was somewhat paying attention to it, but I was in a system where I was in the Walmart of health. You go to your primary care physician, you get 7 or 8 minutes with them. They're documenting things as they're talking to you because they're worried about getting sued because they know you're a lawyer from the paperwork you filled out. I was told the wrong thing about my gut issues multiple times. And now that I got them and they're permanent, there's all sorts of medications that I can't take. I've got knee problems and back problems too. I can't take oral steroids. I can't take Advil. I can't take Aleve. So it affects everything. It just sort of snowballs on you. I think it was Hippocrates thousands of years ago who said all health starts in the gut. So I'm telling you, not only pay attention to it, don't let something small snowball, but make sure you're not just doing, the doc in the box down the road. Make sure you're getting a specialist. I'd say make sure you're going to a functional medicine doc. In a way, in the law, the reptile theory is you get to the root cause of things. Well, a lot of the Western doctors just treat symptoms. If you go to a functional medicine doctor, they will look for the root cause of things. I was told my gut could not improve at all and that surgery was the only thing that could be done for it. And I was told that by a surgeon who'd make money off the surgery. So I kept looking and finally got to a functional medicine doc. I actually had some of the supplements that she recommended, but she had them at a higher grade of quality and they worked. They're making it better. I'm not back, but you're young, but it'll snowball quickly. Pay attention to your health. Pay attention to your kid's health. Functional medicine doctor met with my daughter and told her that she thought she had extra fluid in her head. And I was like, that sounds off. Wonder how she'd know that because my kid's head looks normal. Well, I bought one of those scales that scans you and weighs you and tells you where you have all this excess weight. And guess what? Her head was excess. So we're getting her looked at now. If you don't have your health, you really don't have anything. Everybody talks about time management. Not a lot of people talk about energy management. If I've got a 9 to 5 day tomorrow and I'm feeling good and in good health, I can get a lot done. If I got a 9 to 5 day tomorrow and I'm in agony and pain will eventually wear you out, I'm just not going to get as much done. So energy and health management is every bit as important as time management. Don't let it snowball on you. Don't just take the doc in the box's word for it. Get specialists, and I'd say a functional medicine doc or an alternative doc.
So sometimes and often when you're young, you take that for granted. We
Absolutely.
do. Every single day.
Yeah, absolutely. But I actually saw something on social media the other day that talked about how the heart condition that you have at 60, it started at 35, right? The point of it was it's the habits, it's the ambivalence, right, to the health. And that, as you said, Penn, snowballs. And there are no shortcuts, right? I don't know how many hours I've wasted on Google, how do you do this faster? How do you do this or that? Or gain muscle here or lose weight here, right? Or what's the best diet for this? The real answer is make sure you're getting checked out by a medical professional that you trust, and that's doing a thorough, comprehensive exam. Make sure you sleep. Make sure you limit your stress. Make sure you eat a good diet, and make sure you exercise, right? And there's a million things that go into all those, but that's the fundamentals that you just have to get right.
And it's the thing about it is we're so caught up in putting the hours in, making sure that we are the best at what we do. And you lose sight of the fact that you can't be the best unless you are in the best health that you're at the time that you're doing this thing or two.
Absolutely.
So I want to kind of reel back you touched on something. You said, talking about AI, I want to get in court now because AI is not going to be able to replace those trial attorneys. And this is why we do what we do, because we love being in court. What does the trial mean to you? And I know it's a broad question, and because we live for the trial, and I've always, I'll tell you, there's any case I have, the excitement that I get before standing in front of a jury, the excitement that I get prepping the case, putting my opening together, my closing together, thinking of what the other side is going to present and how do I undermine it, or how do I ask certain questions to lead them on cross to ask a particular question that opens the door for me. So what is a trial? What does it mean to you?
Sharif, you didn't tell me I was going to get cross-examined by a judge on what vague questions about what trial means
That's
to me.
right. We got another question for you. Do you own your body? That's right.
That's after that. We got to answer the first one
That's
first.
right. That was actually a real question we talked about in law school. So it's just,
What was the question?
do you own your own body?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
See, my question was much easier than that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say yes on that, although there's some contrary laws to that effect. But, well, I mean, I'm not one of those lawyers that beats their chests and says they're the best and has to be in court every week. I want the cases that need to go to trial to go to trial. If I need more opportunity to go to trial, State Farm and Allstate will provide them for me, usually. If I have a case I haven't seen before, if I have an unusual case, then I'm going to cut my fee to bring somebody in to make sure that's done that case before, or that's their specialty, to make sure my client gets the best representation possible. Yeah. That's 3/4 of why I do that. The other quarter of why I do that, I don't want to lose. It's ego. I just don't want to lose. So I'll do whatever it takes ethically to put forth the best trial possible. In terms of what is a trial, I used to think it was a battle between good and evil or a search for the truth, but really it's just trying to get, in a world full of noise, it's just trying to get the signal through, the true signal through of what's really going on, and why your client is on the right side of things, what needs to happen for justice to be served.
Yeah, and it's a story, right? It's your client's story. It's putting, without telling the jurors to put themselves in your client's shoes, at least to appreciate what your client has gone through, and how unjust the defendant's actions were at that time that they acted. Right, so it's one of those things, just highlighting the injustices of what happened.
I really like that analogy too. Trying to get a signal in through amongst all the noise and the distraction, and trying to get a clear signal. Because you're right. Most of our cases, they can be boiled down to just a few facts, right? Like, someone was careless. Here are the reasons why they were careless. And that could be the same said for a corporation as well. This person was hurt as a result. This person has lost A, B, and C because of that carelessness. We need this to make it right. That's it, right? That's the entire case for the most part. Yet there are so many things that get in the way of, as you said, getting that signal across the right way.
Part of what you touched on was, well, if I'm not very privy to this particular issue, I reach out. So let's talk about the trial prep for you. What does that mean?
Well, I'm always trying to collect other people's trial prep checklists. Very few people have them. I have one. I don't have it memorized. And we go to CLEs. We read books on it. But I got to say, you got to try what you're told at a CLE. Sounds so good when they're up there talking about it. Might not work in trial in Virginia, might not work for you in particular. Like Rick Friedman was my first book I read about trial practice. It was polarizing the case. And I was so excited to go to a trial. And the basic gist of it is they say the defense, whether they're saying it directly or usually indirectly, what they're really kind of hinting to the jury is your client's exaggerating a little, malingering a little, That's the hint that they're trying to get through, and you got to call it out. You got to highlight it and say, hey, if you don't believe my client, give them 0. Well, a couple of friends of mine tried that. And
It didn't end well.
And then, there's a juror or two that, wanted to give 0 anyway. That gives them all the permission they need. So you really got to make sure what they're telling you to do works for you. There's a certain lizard theory of trial practice that I don't really subscribe to, but I had to go to a couple of the CLEs, and I just remember being there one year, and they were like, we're going to tear up all your notes. You can't write anything down. If you don't know it, you don't know it. You just got to give up there and give your opening. And then 2 years later, we're going to that same lizard theory, and they're saying, you have to write them down. The head of our organization will not work with you if you don't write out your opening. And there were so many people who'd been going there for years that were just furious because they'd been told something completely different, a 180 difference for years before that. So you can't, these guys aren't the be all end all. There's a lot to learn from them. And I love leading Keith Mitnick and others like that, but you got to try it out for yourself. Make sure it works for you. Some of the advice I've gotten that's worked for me, that's kind of stuck with me over the years, is visit your client at their home more than once. You want to build rapport with your client. Your jury, it's going to sound a little woo-woo, but Tom Coates, one of my first mentors, told me the jury can sense energy. There's energy in that room. There's a vibe in that room. There's a vibe in the room when you walk into a fun party. There's a vibe in the room where you walk into a party where no one's having any fun, right? You can sense the vibe. The jury can sense if there's a connection between you and your client. The jury can sense if you believe your client. So visit your client at home, get to know your client, find out what makes them worthy of damages. Some jurors aren't going to want to award damages, but if you can highlight how your client's a really good person, active in the community, if you can highlight the relationships, the people that rely on your client, that helps the jury give money. Everybody in this office has people that are relying on them. Everybody here has relationships. You're a judge, you're a dad, you're an attorney, you're a friend, and you humanize your client when the jury knows about those relationships, and that makes them more worthy of damages. On a practical standpoint, if there's any kind of liability battle, or even if there isn't, I want to win the battle of the pictures. I want to win the battle of the exhibits. And there's lots of good services out there for that. I'll give Asha at Amicus Visuals a shout out on that. She's excellent. But so those are the things that, off the top of my head, stuck with me. But and the other thing that I liked about Rick Friedman, he was the first guy to say, when you're reading it in a book, when you're watching it at a CLE, it's going to look so perfect and smooth. But you don't have to be perfect and smooth, and real trials are often not perfect and smooth. So don't spend your time worrying about that. So that was helpful for me too. Just if you think you got to be perfect, then it makes it a lot harder to do it.
You touched on one thing, making them worthy. That is so powerful. Because who sees the worth that you've given them? It's the jury. It's the judge. And I do agree with the notion that people can feel that. When you see it, I used to see it when I was a prosecutor. If the defense attorney didn't get along with the defendant, guess who noticed it? Everyone. If the person that's advocating for you cannot get along with you and they're telling you to stop or raising their hand, what kind of message does that leave the jury with? But instead of putting their hand up in your face telling you to stop, they lean in and they put their left hand on your shoulder and they let you whisper in their ear. And then you start writing it down like whatever they're saying is gospel and it's important. I got to relay it. Everyone sees that. The prosecutor sees that. So making them worthy is powerful because it can be seen. Not only can it be felt, but it can be seen by everyone in the courtroom.
It's also it's a better way to practice the law, right? I mean, I have really fond memories of some of the clients I represented, and in every one of those cases, which I can think of, it's largely because I had a great relationship with the client, and so it meant something to me. And so, and I think that's something that we're always trying to juggle. I mean, we have more than one case, and you have to have more than one case in order to keep the lights on and to be available to provide the service that you're providing. How do you juggle spending the time? And it's a struggle that I have every day.
And Sharif, it's for you to have more than one case. For your client, that's their only case.
That's right.
So they don't care about
Hopefully,
your...
Exactly. Hopefully.
That's their only case. And, going to defense attorneys, for that, criminal defense attorneys, for that defense attorney especially, you got over 200 cases. But that's the only murder charge that's going to keep them away either for life or not for life. So it doesn't matter how busy you are.
I agree.
You got to think about how they see it. And it goes same for the Commonwealth attorneys and prosecutors. I don't care if you have 200 cases on your docket that morning. They were victimized. They're the ones that felt the pain. Not your 200 other files that's in front of you.
That terrifies me. I hope they don't have 200 cases. I mean, that's one reason to go to a boutique. I don't think you can represent 150, 200 people effectively. I don't think you can really be a good advocate for them. That's why I just don't think you can do it at those numbers. I know it's going to turn into the healthcare we have today where everything's triaged and everything's generic. If you're trying to do, 180, 200, 250 cases, it's just too much. And you're right. That's their only case. That's the only one they care about. When I go to the doctor, I know there's a waiting room full of people. But when I'm in there, I better have their full time and attention. And I hope and pray that they look again at my case or work on it a little while I'm not there. And I don't think the standard doctors do that. So that's why I went to alternative. But the same holds true for lawyers.
I agree with that notion wholeheartedly.
And it's quality time too, right? I mean, one of the issues I think we run into, at least in the personal injury world, is there are the firms where a lawyer will be assigned 150, 200 cases, and under that lawyer will be 3 or 4 paralegals. And really the lawyer in such a model doesn't have the opportunity to develop that relationship with that client. And that I don't think is great for the lawyer, and also don't think is necessarily that great for the client. And it becomes more transactional rather than the representation I think probably most people would prefer.
I mean, it's that's not how you serve justice.
No. Which is, I mean, that's a plug for this. I mean, we started off talking about marketing. I mean, that's a plug for the small firm, right? I mean, we've got plenty of cases, knock on wood, but we don't have thousands, and that's by design, right? We don't need thousands to keep the lights on.
We turn down a lot.
Yeah, that's right. We don't take every case. Right?
I'll send them elsewhere. I think, look, I'm really busy right now. I think this is a great lawyer for you. I don't mind sending it to my competition at all. I don't view it that way. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't get a lawyer versus fighting over the people who do. Make some inroads into the people who normally wouldn't get a lawyer, and you'll be fine. There's plenty of cases. Ben Glass saying plenty of cases within 10 miles of your office. You don't need them all over everywhere. But it goes back to business versus profession. We're both. You got to keep the lights on, but we're a profession. You have to serve justice, as you put it. And a lot of these national firms coming in that, couldn't find the courthouse without using Google Maps and don't know any of the judges and don't know the localities. I feel bad for the people hopping in and using them.
And another point on that, if you handle the cases the right way, and I recognize that's the right way is subjective, you don't need 100 cases, right? Like one case can lead to a significant result, right? And I mean, I think I can give an example. We have a case that went to one of these, a big advertising firm that I think was recently moved into town, and they ultimately said, sorry, like the medical bills aren't high enough. We can't help you with your case. I think the medical bills in this case are $400, and they found us, and we looked at the conduct first and what happened. And this was a ladder that a contractor was using, doing some sort of repair that was not secured the way it should have been secured. It fell and landed on a 2-year-old child, right? And like, if you look at that case and forget the economics, these are the hard numbers, so this is what this case must be worth. But actually look at like the conduct and the human loss, the impact to that child and to that family. And if you're willing to take the time to work that case up the right way, that case can have real value, right? I mean, so in some respects, the quality of your lawyer really does matter. And the willingness that lawyer has to dedicate the time to believe in the case and to work it up appropriately can make a huge difference when it comes to getting the right result.
That's the thing, is how much time do you want to spend fleshing out the story?
We have to. I mean,
we all are walking stories.
You have to. Yeah, I mean, I think one, it's what makes our jobs meaningful. So I think it's good for the lawyer. And then two, it's what gives these cases value. I mean, how are you going to go in and tell a story to a judge or jury if you don't know the story yourself?
Going back to the practice of law and everything that you're doing, I want to take you fast forward 20, 25 years. And I'm not sure if you've heard that in our, previous episodes, but when you look back, how do you want to see yourself in 25 years or see this profession that you've practiced in?
That was another question that Sharif did not prepare me for, getting cross-examined by a judge. But no. 25 years from now, health-wise, I hope I'm still here. We'll start there. I hope the profession can get back to a place where we've earned the public's respect again. I mean, we did write the Magna Charta, we did write the Bill of Rights, we did write the Constitution. So there's a lot to give ourselves credit for, but it's been a long time since we've tackled major issues like that. Probably civil rights was the last time I can think of that lawyers were really known for tackling major issues like that. 25 years from now, I'm very worried that we might be on some sort of social credit system. We might have digital currency and digital ID for everything. And I hope somebody's willing to, even if it loses them money, I hope somebody's willing to go out there and fight for privacy, fight for what's right. I don't think I want to live in a China-like society. NBC did a special on it 7 or 8 years ago, and Black Mirror did an episode of it, which if you've never seen it, you should absolutely watch it, because that's what's possibly coming in the future. That's what all this AI is. Everything's being tied together in one big program, data-wise in the government now, and I can't blame that on one party, because the last party was doing the same thing when they were in charge. They're going to have it on everybody. Right to freedom, right to privacy, right to free speech, those are all very important to me. I got to figure out a way to incorporate my values into my practice. My practice does cover some of my values now, absolutely. It just doesn't cover all of them, and I'm concerned for what could be coming down the pike. There's some great things coming down the pike too, but with good, there's often bad. With bad, there's often some good. So just want to hope we earn the public's respect back. I hope we continue to tackle big issues. That's what I'm hoping for the profession.
Penn, if you could go back to when you graduated law school and give yourself some advice, what would you tell yourself?
Find a way to, if you're going to be a trial lawyer, find a job that puts you into trial right away. And I tried. There were other people in my classes that got those Commonwealth attorney jobs and those public defender trial jobs, but I'd probably just do whatever I could to find a way to get into trial more and more. I think some of the local defense firms, they just throw you right into the fire, and I think that's the way to go. Learning as you go. Now, got to be smaller cases, because just as you said, but everyone's got to learn somewhere. I think I had a dental student working on my crown a few weeks ago. It went fine. Everybody's got to learn somewhere, but get in there as soon as you can to get into trial. Have a job where you have to go into trial, where you're comfortable with it. Read the books. You don't have to read the entire book. For example, Polarizing the Case, I think you can get the gist of that in a couple of chapters. Keith Mitnick, Don't Eat the Bruises. I don't think you need to read all 8 chapters on voir dire, particularly in Virginia. I used to have a guilt feeling about not finishing a book cover to cover, but there's so many great books out there. You're not going to get to them all if you try to read the whole thing. So do that. And if you can't get a job where you're in trial all the time, just try to go down and watch some of them and take notes. There's also the Trial Channel Network. You can find some people you can split that with, and you can, watching that, you'll find the right way to do things and the wrong way to do things. You'll learn from both. So,
kind of coming full circle. I know towards the beginning of the conversation, you'd mentioned Rick Friedman. One of the books that I read, and I don't think I took very seriously at the time, but now I look back on it and realize how important some of the advice in that book was a book by Rick Friedman. It's called To Be a Trial Lawyer, or On Becoming a Trial Lawyer. It's something like that. And in that book, there's a line that says, early on in your career, trade money for experience. And that, I think, echoes exactly what you're talking about. Like, get the experience and forget the paycheck when you are starting out, to develop that skill set to allow you to do the work that you want to do.
It's funny you say that about Rick Friedman in particular. He asked for a lunch with Jerry Spence like 20-some years ago, and he got it, and he had the lunch with him, and he wasn't impressed. And then like 8 years later, he was like, oh, my God, I just wasn't ready for what he told me. Now everything they told me is solid gold. I wish I'd recorded that interview. But, yeah, I agree with that experience over money thing, especially early on before you have real responsibilities. Other thing I tell my young self, just if you're not at a place where they want to do win-win, if you're not at a place where their values align with yours, it's time to start looking. Whether you're comfortable or not, it's time to start looking and find the right place. You only really get to pick what you do, where you do it, and who you do it with. We've all picked what we're doing. Right now, I think we probably all like Richmond. So what's left is who you do it with. That's what you get to pick. Pay close attention to that. Don't burn years of your life in the wrong place.
Well, Penn, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. I'm sure we'll continue to work together, and I'm sure I'll continue to hit you up for health and supplement advice. But no, this has been a really good episode. Thank you for joining us. And we've got you coming to our conference, right? October 24th?
That is correct.
That's right. Yeah. We've got you a ticket, so we're good to go. So October 24th, voir dire to verdict here in Richmond. It's going to be a good time. So that's another training opportunity.
Yeah, it's a pleasure, as always.
Appreciate it, guys.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of RVA Trial Lawyers, Virginia's trial lawyer podcast. For more episodes, check out rvatriallawyers.com.